her made her feel powerful. Suddenly, she was recognized as a person with superior qualities, and everyone at school was making a fuss over her. She felt extraordinary, even a bit conceited. Susan decided she no longer needed to study. Why waste time when she was a genius? Instead of homework, she spent her after-school hours doing what she really enjoyed: reading, looking up words in the dictionary, doing crafts, and watching Dialing for Dollars, a fast-paced television game show. Then she simply stopped going to school. She had received an F in a math test, and the walk to school was too long, especially on the days that the neighborhood bully and his buddies were on the street. At the time, Susan was living with her mother and older brother David in a 2-bedroom apartment in Concord, an area of the East Bay about 45 minutes outside San Francisco. She didn't feel safe in their blue-collar neighborhood, where gunshots were not uncommon, and there'd been several murders in the hills behind her house. Even at school, she didn't feel safe. During her first week at Clayton, a girl jumped her, and then several others joined in, shoving her repeatedly until a teacher intervened. Staying home with her books and visiting the imaginary world of David Copperfield was infinitely preferable to the anxiety of traveling to school and the realization that she was falling behind in class. For more than a month, Susan intercepted letters from the high school attendance office inquiring about her excessive absences. When her mother finally learned that she had been skipping school, she didn't ask why. Helen Bowling simply followed the recommendation of the school guidance counselor to have her daughter evaluated by Felix Polk, a licensed clinical psychologist who specialized in the treatment of adolescents and families. A million thoughts ran through Susan's mind as she climbed the steps of the psychologist's yellow house. What if he is really handsome, she worried. She would not be able to speak to him. She would be too shy to open up. Dr. Polk requested to speak privately with Mrs. Bowling before meeting with the teen. It was a long 15 minutes before her mother summoned her to join the conversation. Standing awkwardly near one of the 2 dark leather chairs, Susan remained silent as the psychologist and her mother continued their discussion. She felt relieved at the sight of the 40-ish and not-so-handsome doctor. He was not particularly tall, about 5 foot 9 inches, 160 pounds, and his prominent nose, kinky brown hair, and thick lips were not what she had envisioned. No problem, she mused to herself. She could never be attracted to such a person. Her mother finally left the room. Feeling awkward and insecure, Susan glanced around and then focused on the casually dressed professional. She didn't like the way he was looking at her. At 15, Susan realized that boys were eyeing her differently. They seemed interested in a way she had not experienced. Yet a flirtatious look from one of her male teenage friends was one thing, while a similar look from her new psychologist was quite another. He looked more than twice her age. Susan stared blankly at the tanned, older man when he asked if she had anything she wanted to discuss. "I don't feel like talking." "That's okay," the psychologist soothed. "I'll talk for you." Felix Polk spoke in a slow, deliberate tone. His gravelly voice had a faint accent, almost like a lisp, that was more pronounced when he said certain words. Slowly, Susan began to feel at ease in his presence. "What do you like to do at home?" he asked. "I like to read," Susan told him. Her response seemed to intrigue the psychologist. Dr. Polk appeared genuinely impressed that Susan was currently reading Dostoevsky, Chekhov, and Tolstoy, and his interest appeared sincere. She felt flattered when this successful professional man, who was much older and certainly wiser than she, gave her compliments. Suddenly, Susan felt important and smart. Dr. Polk was 25 years her senior, yet she felt the two had made a connection. Their subsequent sessions were better. Talking about books was easy for Susan. Reading had always been a passion, a way to escape the drudgery of life and the pain of her absent father, her working mother, and her frustrated, rageful older brother. Just like her truancy, Susan kept her sessions with Dr. Polk a secret. The therapist had instructed her not to disclose their discussions.